Welcome to episode number 1 of the Reseller Show, my brand new podcast dedicated to all things online reselling. Whether it's sourcing smarter, promoting your products more effectively, or navigating the ins and outs of different marketplaces, this show is here to help you become a better reseller. So before we dive in, as this is episode number 1, a quick intro from me. My name is Matt, I'm a tech entrepreneur, I'm a founder, I'm a business owner, and I've been in the reselling game for well over 20 years. I created this podcast to share what I've learned along the way and to try and shine a light on other resellers and their unique journeys. So that brings me nicely onto probably the most exciting part of this show, which is the guests. Each episode, I'll be chatting with fellow resellers, learning from their stories, their wins, and most importantly, the challenges. And today, for episode number 1, I'm kicking things off with someone that I've known for a couple of years now and is a fellow eBay for Business award winner. Now, I won't introduce him myself, I'll let him do the honours. So without further ado, here is my first guest on the Reseller Show, Malc from TravelRuss Stamps. Well, Malc, thank you very much for joining me on episode 1 of the Reseller Show. You are my first ever guest on this brand new podcast, so I'm really, really excited. I've done a little intro already, and I thought I'd give you the honours of doing a full intro on yourself and letting us know who you are and how did TravelRuss Stamps come to life.
Oh, wow. First guest, no pressure. It can only get better, eh? Onwards and upwards. But hi. So hi, everyone. I'm Malc, and I run TravelRuss GB Stamps. I'm a reseller based in Rugby, Warwickshire. Rugby is in the home of football. I've been selling on eBay as a business seller now for around about 6 years. Bit of an unusual backstory, I think, in terms of how I got into it. I'll tell you what, Matt, I'll give you a question first of all.
Okay.
When or how old was you then when you did your first resale? When did you start reselling?
I remember eBay from back in the day when it was possibly not first launched, but I remember going to places like, do you remember BY's?
Oh.
Do you not remember the store, BY's?
But I'm not sure, but go on.
That was like BY's and the pound store, buying stuff and then resell it on eBay when you could actually do that. I remember, like, because eBay was so new, you could buy stuff from retail and then sell it and make a good profit. I've probably been using eBay for maybe 15 years. So, and do I want to give my age away? Do I? I will. I'm 51, right? So I'm 52. I'm 52 this year. So probably my mid 30s, I would say.
Okay.
How about you?
Well, eBay, as you said, sort of 6 years, give or take, as a business seller, almost a year before that as a private seller. But I resold at the age of 12. I just do not. It was born out of the fact that, they say your parents teach you a lot and show you a lot and everything else. Well, my mum sent me to school on my first non-uniform day in a knitted jumper and a haircut only a mum for the 1980s can send you to school with. I didn't even know barbers existed. And, I got a first for earning money from then. And it was one of those sort of family situations where money was tight. The 80s was like high interest rates, and my parents had just bought the council house and everything else. And you couldn't have branded clothes then, So if I wanted branded clothes or if I wanted Adidas, Nike trainers, whatever, I had to earn some money to do it. So my dad worked at Golden Wonder Crisps. And I started going into school with a school bag full of books and a school bag full of crisps. And I started selling. So that started
Malc's Tuck Shop.
It was. And I actually had a teacher buying tortilla chips off me in the end as well. And it was accepted that I never messed about at school, but I didn't do homework. And I did this sort of thing. It's sort of taken on board that maybe there's a little bit sort of entrepreneurialism in there. And anyway, no interest in going to college, university. I just wanted to earn money. I ended up leaving school, having done 3 part-time jobs, paper rounds, working at a petrol station, and I was a clay pigeon trapper as well. So I was earning really good money in then, and I was selling on the side as well. So, as I say, I sold the crisps, I sold fishing gear, I sold CDs, and Amiga 500 computers.
Wow!
I can't even work out where I bought them from, but anyway, I was selling them. But that got me sort of up to the end of school. I left school on the Friday, started my full-time job on the Monday. I was selling the fishing gear and the Amiga 500s at my new sort of workplace. And I spent, well, what did I spend then? 29 years in the tyre trade. So I did sell bits and bobs in between. I bought and sold property. That was my next thing. So if you look at my CV from when I was 21, it says I will buy and own 5 houses. That was on my CV at 21. Pushed, and I did it. That was whilst I was working full time. Anyhow, I'd set myself again another sort of stopgap in life, change of career. At 45, I would leave my job. I'd worked for Pirelli Tyres Group for 22 years. So I said, 45, I'm going to leave. Don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave. I'm going to do something different. And before I left, my dad had died. He didn't have any money. He didn't have anything to leave us, whatever. But he left me a stamp collection.
Right.
Hence, we'll get into it now. So
I was going to say, from Pirelli tyres to stamps, it's just a massive. It's they're polar opposites, and that was going to be probably one of the things I was going to ask next. How did you transition from that to stamps?
Yeah, there was a massive phase actually when I said I was leaving Pirelli, and I sort of put it on Facebook because my friends are used to seeing me sort of going to nice events and going on trips. Go to Formula One races and driving fast cars around the track. To a lot of people, I had the dream job. And I don't get me wrong, it was fantastic. And a great company to work for. And I made a lot of really good friends there. And it was fantastic. But I've always thought even if something is good, if you put these breaks in your life, you'll do something different. But as I said, I didn't know what I was going to do. But anyway, when I said I was leaving, so friends of mine said, "You're absolutely crazy. What are you going to do?" Obviously, it took a little while for me to start telling everyone what I was doing, sort of thing, because I never had no idea it was going to sort of work. They were like, "What? You're bonkers? You do what? You do what?" But yeah, so I'd inherited this stamp collection from my dad about 14 years ago. Still at Pirelli at the time. I'd still got about another 4 years to do before I said I was gonna leave. So I stuffed it all in the bed and everything else. But actually, before that, I think part of the grieving process and that was I was going through it all. I was up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, sort of sieving through it all, checking it all. And I collected stamps in the 1980s, as a lot of people did back then. There was no computers and that,
Yeah, I had those stamp collection books as well. Yeah, I did that
everyone really did it. It's one of those things back then. And but I hadn't touched a stamp since, say, I don't know, the early 1980s. So I went through them all, as I say, spent hours into like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning going through them all, and actually looking on eBay in terms of the individual values, because I was just hate to think of, say there's one bulk lot missing some good stuff in there, and cogs just started to turn, sort of thing. And when I left Pirelli, I pulled them out from underneath the bed, started to do some listings, actually seen some more bulks. I bought some more bulks, and I just started to list from there whilst I was trying to decide what to do next. So I was doing auctions and that first of all, and I was getting a few hundred listings going, and it just started to pick up, and I was treating it more like a little bit of extra income. I mean, actually, when I left Pirelli, one of the sort of, because a lot of people wouldn't just leave their full-time job without another job to go to. But I'd sold a house, and we'd bought a house, did a massive renovation project on it, big extension and that. So I'd sort of worked it out. There was actually, if I project manage it, do some other work myself, I can almost pay myself half a year's salary in saving on the building costs. So I was doing that and doing the stamps in at the same time, and it was sort of just gradually growing. And I started to think, do you know what? Actually, yeah, there's something in it. Gradually, again, growing, sort of thing. Started to buy from auctions.
I was going to say, I'm kind of really naive about the whole stamp industry. What made you choose to do it via like a marketplace, and why eBay? I mean, I don't know whether there's different platforms that you can deal with. There's like you said, auctions and places like that, whether it's places dedicated for it.
Well, I levitated straight to eBay because initially I wanted somewhere to check the prices, and eBay was just the place that sprung to mind straight away. I'd always seen eBay as a place for second-hand items, and that was actually it's a lot more than that. Obviously, there's tens of thousands of sellers selling good new stuff and that as well. Amazon didn't seem to be a place, and obviously a lot of the other marketplaces weren't about even 6-7 years ago. And I just got on with it. I got on with the format of it. As I say, initially I was sort of doing auctions, and soon realised actually there was a better market in the buy it now market. So coming back to your question, I think you're asking about why eBay and where do I get it from, that and so on. Well, eBay wouldn't be the place for me to buy my bulk stocks. Wherever I can, I try and use auctions or actually auction dealers. So it might be someone like me that would buy stock. So I bought it from another reseller, if you like, but he's just happy buying it as one lot and selling it as one lot. Whereas I'll take a big lot and I'll break it down into lots of small items. So one collection might have, I don't know, 2,000 items in it. I'd always worked on the basis if building a business, well, could have been the sales job I was in previously or building my own business. If you set it up right to start with and set it up right so it can start to manage itself, you can get the growth and you can sort of let it manage itself. So put that into eBay context. I wanted to find products that I could list multiple quantities. So it's like, right, well, I've got that one listed. All I now need to do is technically add stock, make sure it's always the right quality, obviously, if it's a multi-quantity listing, but just keep adding stock.
So you're definitely along the lines of more wholesale purchasing from auctions and places like that, and then breaking them down into smaller lots on
Absolutely,
eBay.
yeah. So I'd buy big lots for thousands of pounds and break them down into small lots of a £5 purchase, £10, £20 purchase. Some obviously are bigger, and a lot of customers will buy multiple items. An order could be one set, an order could be 10, 15, 20 sets. But I just found it was a product that worked. I didn't choose stamps. It's one of those things,
It shows you.
Well, yeah. I'm not superstitious or anything like that. And, I always sort of thought, my dad didn't leave me any or whatever, but he's left me a business.
But
followed the crumbs, and
Yeah.
it's just sort of, he actually used to sell, stamps occasionally at car boots and that sort of thing, again, pocket money, he'd be amazed, obviously, if he could see what stamps actually could be online. And eBay, coming back to your question before again, eBay's where the customer base is for this product. Realistically, I've got a shop window across the world. So I'd probably say around 90% of my customers are in the UK. But I ship quite a lot to America. And then we go out to Europe, Australia, basically most countries across the world.
And that's the good thing about eBay, isn't it? It gives you an open platform where pretty much everybody. Do you do all of your shipping via GSP then, or?
No, not at all. I've never used it, and I don't use it purely and simply because realistically, I mean, look, I'll give you an idea. That essentially, they're my orders that I've picked today. They're all letters that will go out via Royal Mail. So, I mean, look, essentially, I would use my own stock of stamps to send the items. So, my postage costs and everything are actually all within my stock value. So it wouldn't suit me. If I've got bulkier items such as albums, etc., I can sell them easily in the UK. And so I've not used it. So, if it came to sort of talking to other sellers about GSP, I wouldn't be the person to talk to on that. But I mean, coming back to the product itself, it's almost like a perfect product in my eyes to sell. It's small, it's light, it's cheap to send. I can use my own product to send it. It's in my mind, it's easy to store and stock because there's so many reference numbers. What year it came out, so I can file it by year. It's just such an easy thing for me to work with, and the sort of stuff that I sell, it's the closest thing actually I can put to being close to money.
Yeah.
So first class stamp says it's worth £1.70. That's what you'd pay from the post office if you bought one. It's worth £1.70.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I can work that out in my own mind in terms of when buying stock and everything else. So,
and I can see all the things on the shelves behind you. I guess that's all your stock. What does what is this? Where are you based? Are you based at home, or have you got a little office? Or?
Yeah, based at home, which again, keeps the cost down, doesn't it? I mean,
100%.
I say it's fantastic. It is because I can work when I want. Times that suit. That said, it can work against you a little bit as well because, if I wake up really early in the morning, I think, I can nip in the office and I could get my orders done before I take my lad to school. And then the whole day is my own, which not because I ended up doing other work. So I did a crazy thing last night. I mean, last night I had, my sales day wasn't quite as good as I would have liked. My same sales day 31 days ago was a big day. And again, because I've been in sales for 20 odd years, I'm always targets driven all the time. And I'm like, I can't let that drop because of that. So last night, about 30 minutes before myself and my wife went out for a meal, I sent offers out. I sent over 800 offers out. I was like, okay, great. But I shouldn't have done it because, well, I should have, but I shouldn't have done because I knew I got a chunk of stuff on today, including doing this. I've sent 800 offers out, and well, 80 odd came in while we were out for the meal last night. I'd got my phone on silent, but I could feel the vibrate, and I kept thinking, "There's a sale, there's a sale, there's a sale," and it just kept going on and on. And the uptake was fantastic.
So
I mean,
I'm
over 10% uptake that was last night.
wow.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming then if you can send that many offers out, then you must have a lot of live listings. What on average is your kind of live listing count?
Well, I've got just short of 7,000 listings overall. Just short of 5,500 are live with stock against them. Just short of 1,300 followers. But of course, when you send your offers out, they're going to followers and people that have got it as watched. I believe it also picks up people that have looked at the item as well. They don't have to be watching it. And and I had a look this morning, and 19 of the orders that came in were from new customers. And obviously when we speak as sellers, I mean, you're in obviously a completely different sector to me. Different things are more important, aren't they, depending on what sort of category. But for me, feedback is massively important, and repeat sellers is massively important because I'm working with collectors. So they're obviously going to be buying. We're looking for multiple items, whereas yourself with tech, they might buy a new Mac or whatever it is and not need another one for 2 or 3 years.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What's your new buyer versus repeat buyer? Because for us, we love repeat buyers, and what we generally find in the tech space is because we sell singular items mainly to consumer, but we do have trade buyers that will come on as well and purchase items. It's the trade buyers for us that are repeat, and our percentage is really quite low of repeat buyers, which is we're actively trying to change that. But I was thinking about what you do. And I was thinking, well, do you get regular buyers like collectors come in from you?
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, first of all, just in case any do ever listen to this, I've got a fantastic customer base. Really good. And again, another benefit of working in the collectibles categories, people want your product and they really want it. It's not a distress purchase. Again, working in tyres, a distress purchase. There's always pressure on price. Whereas working in collectibles, people want it and they want a good quality item, whatever that item is. If it's collectible, you don't want a broken, damaged, not as good a quality item. So in that sense, within reason, people are happy to pay a little bit more. To answer your actual question, repeat customers really important. I jotted down a couple of bits here. In the last 90 days, 35% repeat.
Well, that's actually quite high.
Yeah. I mean, over the year, that's just within the 90-day period. So over a whole year, 22% of the customers are repeat. Sorry, that was an increase. Sorry, 40% over the year.
Yeah.
40% have come back again for another order over the year.
So do you find that you have to do anything to retain those customers? Because, and again, I'll liken it to my category. The customer that we deal with will literally just be after the best price. There is no seller loyalty as far as we're concerned, and unless it comes from a company like a trade buyer. So do you find that you have to do anything to try and put something in with your things that you ship to, like a thank you card and come back? Or do you find that they just follow you and then are regularly checking your stock?
I think the biggest thing is quality. It's got to be the right quality. For a lot of collectors, if it's not the right quality, they won't come back because they don't know what they're going to get next time. On top of that, I always ship as quickly as possible, as fast as service, first class post if I can. Same day where I can. I specify up until 1 o'clock, but obviously I will go later. I tend to do a second postal run when I do the school pickup again. And I'll do things like when I print off an order slip, not with every order, but certainly if it's the bigger envelopes or decent value, I'll always put a handwritten note on there. And I thank them.
Personalisation, yeah.
Thank them. And the feedback I get is fantastic. I'm still managing to maintain 100% feedback. I'll be devastated when that goes at some. I will absolutely. I know you shouldn't worry about it, but I think I've maintained it now for nearly 4 years.
That's really good. We desperately tried to retain it, but inevitably, we've got 4 or 5. But it's
but you're not going to in your sector. You're never going to, are you?
No, it's really difficult.
because I would say again, the customer base I've got is lovely. The demographic of collectors. There are collectors of all ages and men and women collect, etc. But I would say, generally speaking, your demographic tends to be more towards, I don't know, you come into retirement age. A lot of people pick up the hobbies from when they're a kid again. You start again,
100%.
you've got more time, you've got more money and everything else. And I think there's a bit of a resurgence in collecting. You read things in the press now about various sort of hobbies where people are trying to find ways of downtime. I mean, I did see something in the newspaper about actually, some younger people picking up hobbies, whether it's stamp collecting or whatever else, just to try and disconnect from online.
Well, everything is all about screens nowadays, isn't it? And you need that
Absolutely.
kind of thing to disconnect. Because I remember collecting stamps when I was young, and I'm sure if I could find, I'm sure, and my parents in the loft, I'm guarantee I've got probably all my stamp collections. So I will have a look about that actually.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, how are you finding the market? You've just kind of touched on that, but are you finding that this kind of thing is coming back into resurgence now? Are you seeing a different? You've touched on demographic. Do you find that your main kind of customer base are older kind of customers? How you seeing the market space?
Well, I'm seeing new customers, definitely, that probably are at the start of their journey of collecting again, because you can tell from what I mean. Sometimes I have dialogue with them, or quick chat, and thank them. I send a message sometimes and thank them for the order, especially if they're a new customer or whatever. But normally you can see if someone's starting buying, I don't know, back in the stamps from the 1970s, they've started from when they went decimal. And then you see their orders coming from the 1980s, and you see people sort of working through the years. So there's clearly people starting still. As I say, I think there is a little bit of resurgence because that sweet spot of collecting was the 70s and 80s. That was the height. It was a huge thing. There were stamp shops in every town. There are still a few about, but generally it's online now. But yeah, I do think there'll be a bit of resurgence, because if you think I'm 50 next month. So just behind you. I noticed you put a cap on actually for this, whereas I think I should have put one on as well.
Life begins at 50, mate. Life begins at 50.
Absolutely. But no, I think we're at that sort of sweet spot actually, where a lot of people collected when they were young, starting to approach early retirement ages. So I think there will be a bit of a bounce. Generally speaking, for me, sales have been fantastic. I've had growth each year. Initially, sort of, I say modest growth, decent growth, but I think you mentioned in one of the intros that we met through being eBay for Business award winners in 2023.
That's right.
That sort of flew by, isn't it?
It has, yeah.
Winning that is the thing that really pushed me on. Not because of, I mean, don't get me wrong, the prize money is absolutely fantastic, and the package that came with that was great, particularly when you're a business like me, it's just me working in it. That was great. But actually, the big thing it did for me was it got me involved with the community. Before that, I literally sat in my office by myself, work, head down, just beavering away, doing thousands of listings, thinking I'm doing it right, thinking, well, sales are growing, which they were. But having won the award, started to go to meetings, started to meet other sellers and chat about different things. I started to pick up so many tips and tricks.
You do.
And I've probably redone everything that I've done right from the start again in different ways. And if I had my time again, I'd be getting involved in the eBay community a lot earlier and talking to sellers a lot earlier. And I think I would have been further ahead than I am now.
I think that's going to lead us quite nicely onto another section that I want to do about the Seller Meetups, which I know we're both heavily involved in. Just before we do that, one last question on your business. How does scaling your business look? Obviously, you must have some form of 12, 24 month, 3-year plan or whatever it is. You're obviously a one-man band. Are you looking to scale to staff? How are you looking to scale that kind of business?
Yeah, well, again, working for myself, plans in my head, really. I push it now as far as I want to push it. I did go through a period where, I couldn't decide, did I want to register for VAT? and push the sales and that on. You know, that was a massive decision, because then I'm taking it really from a lifestyle business to really what classes then a real sort of serious full-time business. And I dipped in and out thinking, shall I, shan't I, for probably 6 months. And as a result, it cost me thousands of pounds worth of sales. You know, I was tracking on a spreadsheet to make sure I didn't to go above the 90k. And and then I thought, this is crazy. I've got to find a way of doing it. And I spoke to my accountant, started to build spreadsheets, because it's quite a big job for what I do in terms of getting set up to do that. So I put all the hours in before just to see, and sort of trialed a few months just in spreadsheets, not actually selling, if you like. And I thought, I've got to do it. Anyways, obviously I switched it on, and best thing I've done, because the shackles are off now. Exactly. And I can, you know, the growth is there again now. And, you know, straight away, the sales started flying again.
Well, there's nothing holding you back anymore, so you can really push forward.
No. And it's interesting, because when I looked in some of the Facebook groups, eBay Facebook groups, you know, there's quite a mix of people saying, oh, no, you know, it's too much hassle, or no, this, that, and the other. You know, and then there was a few people on there that, yeah, bit the bullet, done it. And they said, look, you'll never look back. Just do it. And I honestly think there's so many sellers still out there that sit at that sort of 80 to 90,000, and they won't tip themselves over, because it just feels so daunting. You know, there was quite a bit of work to do for me in eBay, a lot of spreadsheet work to do, getting your account and that, but get it. Yeah. That's my advice, actually, is just find a way. If you can, find a way and do it, because, you know, you feel free again and you can just go for it.
Yeah.
So now that's done. We're growing again. So I can see steady growth, certainly in the next year or two. The limit is probably my time. It's not an easy thing to bring someone else into the business. I'd probably have to, I don't know, build a garage or extend it to my garage, or, you know, this is the bedroom that's converted to an office stock room. You know, could I go into another bedroom? Possibly. Don't know how that'll go down with the wife. Nipping away at the bedrooms and that. So I'm not sure. There's definitely growth. And if I change where I work, if I have a bigger place, if I bring someone in, teach someone the ropes, or they take on certain jobs, then I can see continued growth. No reason why not. I'd actually considered perhaps having another product as well. You know, I'd looked at things like Lego, that sort of thing. You know, small items that I could do with good stock control would be really easy for me to manage. Actually, I've got the cheap postage as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, there's definitely growth.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll move on to community. Yeah. But at the end, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I'm going to ask you for your top 5 tips for eBay sellers.
Oh, we should talk about that before.
No, I purposely didn't.
Okay.
Okay. I want to talk about community. So I think community. I agree 100% with what you've said. I was pretty much the same. We established our business in 2019. We grew steadily over 3 years, and it wasn't until we won the eBay for Business Award in 2023, the same, that we kind of got more engaged with the eBay and with the community. Now, obviously, from my perspective, I'm starting the podcast. We're doing a lot more in the community. We've done things with eBay, and the new eBay Seller Meetups were announced early part of this year, and I know that you're involved. I'm involved. You've already done one, so I think to let everybody else know who's watching, who might not know what eBay Seller Meetups are, if you can kind of briefly discuss what they are and what your involvement is. And I know that you've got one coming up pretty soon, and let people know how to get involved and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, look, it's a brilliant concept. As I mentioned before, through winning the eBay award and getting to the meetings, whether it's the eBay Open or the road shows, you know, I learned a lot from eBay, but very quickly learned a lot. I say a lot more. I don't want to be down on eBay, but I learned a lot from them. But yeah, I learned so much from other sellers. But it's not easy for sellers just to go and approach another seller, you know, and randomly walk up to someone you don't know. You know, I do, but a lot of people don't, you know. And there's hundreds of people in that room, and it's, you know, you might, if you're lucky, get chatting to a few or whatever. So when the concept of Seller Meetups was announced, I was like, oh, I'm in. You know, this is, I see what benefit it had for my business, meeting and talking to other sellers. So to put you in a room with literally just you and 20 other sellers, let's say, in a nice environment where you can sit down and chat, round the table chats, that sort of thing. That was, to me, it's perfect. So the concept was done. I must say, there was a lot of background work done by Lindsay and Rachel. I'll give a shout out to them, because I know they put a lot of hard work into getting this set up.
Definitely.
And they run the first Seller Meetup in Manchester, which I attended. Again, I just wanted to get an idea of content and how they work it and everything else. And it was fantastic. There was 23, 24 sellers there, and everyone took so much from it. So there's basically a format of, a little bit of knowledge being delivered from the front. Sorry, what I should say first of all is, look, these are seller meetups for sellers, run by sellers. So,
and that's really important.
Absolutely. Look, eBay, are supporting it, and we can bring them into attendance or ask for them to be in attendance, and there'll be input. But essentially, it's run by sellers for sellers in nice small groups. So, went to the meeting at Manchester. As I say, a little bit of information delivered from the front to the whole room, and then there's a big chunk of the meetings then sort of broken down into small workshops, seller clinics, whatever we want to sort of call them, round the table, nice sized groups, 5, 6, 7 people around the table. So did that. That was fantastic. We then got our meeting set up. In the meantime, the London meeting went live. Again, another very good meeting. I didn't attend that personally, but again, feedback really good. The format, again, slightly different, which again, different people, different sellers bring different things. We all sell in different categories. We're all different types of people. So a seller's going to learn from each other as well. So London went live, and then ours went live, and I co-hosted it with the lovely Jane, the eBay Anorak. She's
I love that name.
I know. She's a wealth of knowledge, and we bounce off each other really well. Again, very different people. Selling wise, very different, but she lives and breathes eBay. So it was great to have Jane along my side to sort of run our meeting. And we did our meeting out of Donington, Derbyshire, near the racetrack. And again, around about 20 sellers in the room. Similar format to Manchester. I know you attended.
Yes, I was going to give you my feedback on it in a sec.
Oh, thanks. No pressure. And it was a lovely feel for the sellers. And I think, trying to cast my mind back, I think one of the first things that I asked the room was, okay, so other than the sort of leaders that are in the room, how many sellers actually have contact with another seller? Someone you can ring, someone you can WhatsApp? Because there's so many times in the sort of last, 18 months where I've took advice from another seller. I've been able to ring someone or WhatsApp someone. I've done it with yourself. I've done it with Lindsay. I've done it with a number of people, and that's only helped.
Yeah.
So
and I don't think anybody put their hands up.
No.
When you asked that question.
No, absolutely. And that's a real sign. I think that's generally the case. There are obviously a number that get involved in the community and will go to the eBay meetings, and you gradually get to know people. But I think the real benefit for the meetups is, they're local, and they're going to get more. Like, well, I say local, they're dotted around the country at the moment, but they're going to get more and more local. But generally speaking, I think we're always going to aim to sort of keep those small groups. And from our meeting, we've already had, I think, just short of 60% sign up again for the next meeting. So you're going to get some continuity. We're going to get the sellers that were at the first meeting at this next meeting. So that's great for them straight away. Irrelevant of what they get from us, they're going to get a lot from each other. And that's the big thing that we've really tried to sort of push across is it's that meeting's for everyone. You all learn from each other. And being honest, as leaders as well, we learn from the sellers. I'm sure you must have got a few bits out of.
Well, I was going to say,
go on. What's your feedback? Go on.
Right. Well, I don't class myself as a beginner at eBay. I've been doing it for a number of years. I've been through Pro Trader 3 times, which I know is nothing we've spoken about today. It's going to be in a different show. So I went there not knowing what I was going to get from it. But from the minute I got there, you had half an hour at the start, which was coffee and networking. And immediately I networked with a couple of people that I'm in contact now that I've never met before. And to be honest with you, the way that it was structured, I thought it was brilliant. So much so that I've agreed to be a co-host myself for the Birmingham meetup. And I took away something from it. I think it was kept quite basic, which I think you did on purpose, which I think was the best way to do it, because I was really surprised how many people were in the room who had been selling on eBay for a long period of time who still didn't know the basics, or maybe had bypassed the basics and were trying not too hard, but they were trying other things, and it's the basics that makes a good
Absolutely.
eBay store. And for me, I walked away with new connections, actually pieces of information that I didn't know myself, and wanting to come back and do it again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant. There wasn't too much death by PowerPoint, which was great. You know, like you said, you did an intro. You were kind enough to ask me to do a seller story, which I did then, and obviously eBay did sort of 10 or 15 minutes. And then it was very collaborative within the group, which I thought was brilliant. And like you said, it was sellers learning from sellers, which is really, really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's how we'd see it continuing. The one thing we try to do with ours is we're going to try and follow a journey. So at this particular meeting, we're looking at listings, and then obviously we want to push on to actually pushing the sale through, and then on to bringing the customer back. And so really sort of try and go through that process with other bits sort of dropping in as things obviously change and get announced by eBay as well. But we want to almost get a community within a community. So, hopefully all our sellers will get to know each other. I don't know. Maybe again, the next stage is they might start to become tourists and try a seller meeting. They might come to Birmingham. We're not, you're going to get a little bit of that, which actually, I'd encourage. Don't look at, they're my sellers because they're different. So they can learn a lot by going to other
I think
meetups and that
so.
as well, So I think that'll be really good. I could probably give you, I have it in front of me, some of the other meetups
Yes.
that are going to follow. In fact, we've got one coming up very soon down in Bristol. Tommy and Richard, 24th of April, they have theirs running at Bristol. Manchester is then next. Lindsay and Rachel, that'll be their third meetup. We've then got Scott, who's come on board. He's going to be running Portsmouth. That's the 15th of May. Birmingham, some fella called Matt. Who's he? 12th of June. You've got a venue yet? Are you not nearly there?
Yes.
You have. Great.
Yes. So I'm co-hosting with Emily.
Yes.
So Emily went to see a venue in the middle of Birmingham. It's a unique little shuffleboard place. It's a bit quirky and it's a bit different, but it looks really, really good. So we've been to see it, or she's been to see it. Should be securing that today, and then we're going to make tickets available for so people can snap them up in hopefully next week.
That's great. So I'd seen the event on Eventbrite, and it's sort of pending for ticket
So
sales.
we're the 12th of June. I was going to say after you finish doing the list, we can show people where to get them from.
Okay. So you've got the 12th of June, sir. We're actually going then a week later, East Midlands. So we're at Conkers. I don't know if you know Conkers. Very nice place. So we're on the 19th of June. That's myself and Jane hosting that one again. And then we've got meetings coming in North Wales and the Wirral, which will be run by Andrew, Debbie and Rob throughout July. And then we've got Brighton and London to follow as well. So, good number of locations already. I mean, considering to say this only started, the very first meeting I think was October, I think it was in Manchester. And I know there's more coming on as we go. And I can only see the programme growing.
I think so. I mean, even since I've been involved, which has not been that long, we've seen new hosts come on and new locations pop up. And I think there's a call for these to pop up absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the value that people get from it is fantastic. And I like the way that you're structuring it to take people on a journey. So you haven't gone straight in with advanced, because we're business sellers. You haven't gone straight in with advanced techniques. You've gone in right from the beginning, and then you can take your attendees on a journey right through to more advanced techniques, which is we're probably going to steal that, to be fair, and we're probably going to do the same. I think it's the best thing to do.
No. This is it. And to be fair, we talk about advanced and that. I wouldn't say okay. We're hosts, we're leaders, but we're not experts in every aspect of eBay. As I said to you earlier, I don't use GSP, but there will be other people in the room. I'm hoping that again, there's other sellers that will sort of start and step in and do little bits at the meetings and that as well, because I could just see how that's going to go. But yeah, it's a fantastic program. I've been really pleased with it so far, and yeah, I certainly see it, growing.
Definitely. And I think it's important to know to say that the events are free.
Yes.
And they're listed on Eventbrite. Now, are eBay
Yes.
putting them on different? And I know the seller hosts will kind of advertise them in their own way, but are eBay doing any?
Yeah,
promotion?
eBay are putting comms out on it as well to support the attendance, etc. All the tickets come through Eventbrite. As you say, they're free. They're limited places. We're only talking 20 odd tickets, generally speaking, per event. So we really want to make sure we get bums on seats. So it, yeah. The other thing I ought to mention as well is we also have a group on Facebook. So you can search for eBay Meetups UK on Facebook, and that will basically join you to the group of purely eBay business sellers. Again, that's probably the other thing we should mention about the meetups. Purely eBay business sellers. We have had a number of private sellers contact us because they're on that journey. But obviously, we explain it's for business sellers. But please come back to us once you get to that point. Come back and we'll help you along with your journey. I realise the benefits that I've got from other sellers, and absolutely, really happy to be able to sort of get involved with this and encourage other sellers to do the same.
Exactly. I think the Facebook group's pretty good because all the hosts are on there as well. So if you've attended and you wanted to reach out to somebody, you can reach out to your host. Or if you didn't know somebody's name, you can hopefully get connected through the Facebook group. And I think it also provides a really good platform for additional conversation kind of after the events as well, which is really quite good.
Follow up from the event's really important. And we've had some real good interaction with some of the sellers afterwards. Next thing to roll out as well is a newsletter linked to it as well. That'll update everyone where all the meetings are, with advance notice on the dates. I want to speak to the sellers as well about perhaps just doing a meet the seller on the newsletter as well, where, I don't know, maybe you might be profiled in this particular month's newsletter, just so people can sort of get to know who the leaders are in other areas as well, because again, they might find some relevance to go to a different meeting. And being honest, although these are local meetups, people have been travelling for them. I mean, it's great to get really local.
Well, if you look at yours, for example, Scott, where you came from, Portsmouth,
yeah, and now he's going to be a leader,
and that's not a short journey.
No, and and he loved it, and he took something from it, and he took enough from it to actually want to do one of his own.
And one thing I'll say as well is, you can actually do some business there as well, because I reached out to Scott, and some of the stock that he has, I wanted, and we've done a bit of business there, and hopefully that's going to be a relationship that we can grow, because I'd never heard of his business before. So not just have we got some sort of information share to help our own businesses, we've actually got some business from it as well that's going to benefit us. So that's a positive thing to mention.
And I find it amazing, the mix of businesses, what they sell on eBay. Where else could you go to a meeting and you see such a diverse sort of range of items, people. So actually, that was one of the things that we did at our meetup. We sort of asked sellers to bring along something they sell. Just you get some sort of visuals there as well. And it's just such a diverse range of stuff that's on eBay. So yeah, again, it's it's learning, isn't it?
It is.
It's
and everybody does things in different ways from different categories.
Absolutely.
And that's the way that we can all learn, because sometimes you might be just a little bit blinkered in the way that you run your business, and listening and talking to other sellers about how they do things, you can think, God, actually, I might try that because that might work.
Well, we were giving some thought to sort of, seating of the sellers. Obviously, we had a list of who was coming. It's right. Well, okay, well, we'll put all those together because they're clothing sellers and they'll get on. And we put all the tech people over here. And then you think, well, actually, do you want that? You don't. So you've got to try and find a way of actually mixing people up then perhaps halfway through the meeting, because that it's easy to talk to someone else that sells clothing if you sell clothing.
Well, you actually placed me. So when I sat down, I sat next to Scott. We had a really good conversation, pretty much along the same kind of lines-ish. And lady across the table had started to have a chat with her. And then I realized when I set up my business in 2019, we got a really small office in this little industrial estate. And I went on eBay and I bought a desk and chairs and I searched for local and went down and picked them up. And then I came to your seller meetup, and through the conversation, it was that person that I'd bought the tables and chairs off.
Elsa's.
And we'd never made contact in the
Yeah.
preceding sort of like 6 years. And we were like, that's where I know you from. I bought some desks and chairs from you. And then we had got into a really good conversation about what kind of things that she's doing. And yeah, it was really quite interesting.
Yeah, no, it's great. Again, it's connecting. It's connecting, and it is great. It is great. So yeah, so looking forward to the next one.
Cool. Now we're at about 45 minutes. So we're going to kind of wrap things up, but I am going to put you on the spot. Now, I'm not going to ask you to do 5.
Find a bit of filling. Go and pick that lettuce in the background.
It's a plastic tree. It's just for show.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to give the viewers your top tips for being successful on eBay. Now, you can have these, how to do a good listing, how to take good, whatever you want to do, but what would you be your key takeaways if you were speaking to somebody that's relatively new to eBay and they were looking to get more traction? What would be your top few tips?
Okay, first of all, listing quality. You've got to start with the listing. I think before anything else, you've got to start with the listing. So quality of photos, the description, everything else that goes with it, the title, getting the title right, which is something I really didn't get right at the start. Again, I've been on this journey. I don't know how many times changing from auction to buy it now to postage to free postage to realizing the important first 4 words, wasn't using that right. And actually I looked through some of my listings and like, none of this is relevant. I can think of, I used to sell postcards along with the stamps. And I remember having, what was it? GB, I don't know, 2010 unopened. No one's going to search for unopened. Why is that there? And all these mistakes. So first 4 words, got to get that right. And then the rest of the title, put everything in there that's applicable. Nothing that's not. I had so much in there that wasn't.
You only have 80 characters, use them wisely.
Absolutely. And, I always used to think, again, it needed to read right. So make sure it reads sort of correctly, whereas actually no, get in all your keywords. So I do have to have some of it that reads right. I can't not, but get all your keywords in there, and take out everything that's not symbols as well. Take out symbols. So I'd certainly say that in regards to listing quality, title. The big thing I said to you was about feedback, interaction with customers. Thank people, whether it's on your orders, which I do. I actually make a point. I go through my feedback as well. Something I did on and off a little bit, but I'm trying to do more now where I go through my feedback. It's generally positive feedback. If someone's took time to do a decent chunk of feedback, not the usual A star or whatever, they've took time to write it. I actually drop on there now and thank them.
Yeah, because
they're very kind for the feedback and pleasure. Look forward to working with you again.
Yeah, because that's really important. Now you can actually reply to somebody's feedback, which I think is a really cool little thing. But yeah, I completely agree with all of those. It's definitely structuring listing well, having a good title, good photographs, and offering good customer service.
Look, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't matter what business you're in, customer service has got to be there. But thanking costs nothing. And I think, visually as well, people can see you thanking people. So if they haven't bought off you before, I think they can tell what sort of seller you are.
Yeah, 100%.
Not just because of positive feedback, but just the way you go about things, answering messages quickly. Actually, at the Ascot Roadshow a couple of weeks ago, they had a seller panel, and I think they were asked, what else could eBay do to sort of, make improvements or whatever. And I forget the gent's name now, but anyway, he mentioned about having almost like a light that if you're online, it's telling a buyer that you're online, and because he, like me, answers messages as quickly as possible.
As do I.
And that'd be another good thing.
That's actually not like a little green light to say that you're online. Yeah. That's actually really quite good. I've never thought of that before. But you do get that with other websites.
Yeah, Quite
Yeah.
possibly. I don't know
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah. Excellent stuff, Mark.
Yeah.
That's been awesome. It's been great chatting to you again. Great to catch up. The 49 minutes have just flown by, and I think you've given a whole bunch of really useful information.
I hope so. Yeah. Really enjoyed it.
Now, we're going to do a whole bunch of further episodes on, because there's so much to talk about, and no doubt at some point I'll be asking you to come back on again, because I think your knowledge your knowledge is really, I think a lot of people will get a lot of good positive information from the knowledge that you've got. So thank you very much for coming on. Thank you very much. Sorry, go on.
Can I just say, I don't advocate children going out selling things at the age of 12. Times have changed. Yeah, put that disclaimer in there. Yeah, times have changed.
Definitely.
Sorry, carry on.
That's fine. All I'm saying is thank you very much for coming on. Thanks for being the first. And I know we had some technical issues. This was supposed to be filmed a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And I think we both experienced some tech issues, but we got straight on this morning and we pretty much pressed record straight away.
Yeah,
so I appreciate you giving me the time, for sharing all your knowledge in eBay and sharing your business. And no doubt we'll be seeing you again on the Reseller Show.
It's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Cool. Okay. Speak to you soon.
All the best. Cheers.
Cheers. Well, a massive thank you to Malc for being guest number 1 on episode number 1 of the Reseller Show. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation too. I think it was jam-packed full of useful information, and it was good to listen to Malc's journey into eBay and reselling, and also to hear all about the Seller Meetups, which obviously you can attend free of charge too. Now, I'll put a link down to Eventbrite in the description box below, where you can see all the future Seller Meetups and how to get tickets. And honestly, I couldn't recommend them anymore. They are absolutely fantastic. And it only leaves me to say thank you very much for tuning in to episode 1 of the Reseller Show. I hope you'll click on and visit more of the episodes as and when they're released. So until next time, I'll see you on the next episode of the Reseller Show.